Oh, life is like an adventure. For the first 2 seasons. This season, pretty good, but let's just get to the video and discuss the adventure, shall we?
The filming Daniel.
Hey guys, it's Daniel here, back with a new review. And today, I'm finally here, after I'd say a year and 4 months I believe, to finally discuss the conclusion to a TV show that I reviewed on this channel that I got really into in 2023, and I just was like, how did it take me this long to review the final season of what I consider one of my favourite cartoon shows of like today's generation? This show was like, it was so inspiring and so captivating that I even mentioned in my review of the first 2 seasons that it was that great. So, I'm finally here to discuss its 3rd and final season. Today, I'm here to review Season 3 / the final season of Hilda. So the premise of the 3rd and final season of Hilda follows Hilda, of course, and her mother, who are going on holiday with David and Frida to go visit Hilda's aunt Astrid. Now, the problem is that Astrid and Joanna have had a bit of a history. Yes, they're family, but there is a dark history within Joanna and Astrid's bond, something that Hilda is very intrigued by, and throughout the season she goes on her many adventures while also trying to figure out what the mystery of Joanna's past is. And that is where the final adventure for Hilda begins. Now, as many of you know, I absolutely love Hilda. It was automatically becoming one of my favourite animated shows alongside others like Steven Universe and some of the others I've also talked about on this channel, but I can't remember which ones. But this one is even more special because the fact that it has like a British countryside feel to it while also making it hilarious and emotionally deep is so extraordinary. And the fact that it's based on like some like comics, I believe they're Hilda comics, which I have to admit, I've never read before, but this show is just so amazing to watch. It has likeable characters, a beautiful British atmosphere, stunning animation, and it legitimately made me feel the emotions of the characters, as well as feeling the comedic situations that they get into, while also showing a coming-of-age story of a little girl who likes adventure. So, I was very excited and kind of sad when I heard that Season 3 in December of the 7th, 2023 was going to be the last season. And I was like, I just got into this show, I don't want it to be over, like seriously. But anyway, I did eventually watch the season when it first came out. Like on the day it first came out, I binged the entire 3rd season. And what I thought of it then is the same feeling I had about it now after doing a rewatch. And I also rewatched the entire show and the movie Hilda and the Mountain King in preparation for the rewatch of the final season, because not only would it give me a chance to like experience the whole adventure, to see how it concludes, it made me want to revisit the entire show again and feel the same kind of like amazement and fuzzy feeling I felt when I first saw the show back in 2023. But now, since I talk about that, like, you can go into my review of the Hilda show and Hilda and the Mountain King to get more thoughts on what I thought of it there. But now, I'm here to talk about its 3rd and final season. So what do I think of the big final hurrah for the Hilda character and the many adventures that she's got into? I have to say, the conclusion, I'm not talking about the entire season, but the conclusion of the story, I will say I loved it. It was very satisfying and it was a very emotional and heart-wrenching way to conclude the whole show. But the final season as a whole, I still think it's a really good season. But unfortunately, I do have problems with this season, which really heartbreaks me because this show is like a masterpiece of a show for me, and it always will be. But I will say that this final season, while really good, is the weakest installment in the franchise. And it's a shame, because I want to give this season a 5 out of 5. I mean, I still think it's a really good one, but there are some things I felt like they rushed. I felt like there were some things that weren't being explored or concluded to the way it should have been. But it doesn't change the fact that this was a very well done season to watch. And despite its problems, it's still a great conclusion. So let's talk about what I love about this season. First and foremost, as always, the animation is stunning, with its same kind of like sketchy and drawing kind of personality whenever characters are getting excited or angry or just deeply like emotional or maybe just a bit shy. It's so like beautiful to watch, and the character designs, as always, are so lovely and lovable to see that you'll just want to grab these characters and give them a hug like, oh my god, I love you so much. And I think I mentioned this in my review of the show before, but I love the little kind of sneaky parts where you see the characters like full close-up and you see like their eyes are just like their regular human eyes, but when they're in the far space, they're like dotty eyes, kind of like something out of Winnie the Pooh, which makes the characters even more lovely to watch. And the action sequences and the many adventures and locations that Hilda and her friends get into are so vibrant and so colourful that they just look so otherworldly, but also questionably mysterious as well, whether it's in a intriguing way or a scary way. The music in this show is still amazing to listen to as well. It still has that kind of like bubbly kind of sound. I don't know what the instrument is that they use. It's like a whistle sound, it's like piano sounds, but also like very smooth and very angelic kind of sounds as well. It's hard to describe, but the music for Hilda, in my opinion, it kind of hits a bit of nostalgic feeling inside of me when I think about my past self when I was like a very young kid, or like the kind of like fuzzy feeling I get from watching children's television. The music in this show really taps into my conscience whenever I think about those things. And I think that it's the fact that music in Hilda can affect anybody is a huge achievement. So well done to the composer of the show for giving it that kind of music. And of course, the theme song is still amazing to listen to as always, by Grimes. Not this Grimes, but the Grimes singer. Well, not really a singer, just the composer. I don't know exactly who this Grimes is, but whoever made the theme song deserves a good pat on the back. I think I mentioned a few times that this show has atmosphere. It's not just the adventurous atmosphere, but whenever characters are just like sitting around or just relaxing and enjoying the nature British countryside that bestows in front of them, it has like a lovely relaxing and fuzzy texture to the landscapes and countryside life that's, honestly, you feel very comfy when you're tucked in a blanket with a nice hot cup of tea or hot chocolate or a warm drink and sandwiches, toast or cookies that makes you feel like that kind of fuzziness inside, like, oh, this is so lovely to watch and enjoy and relax over. But anyway, I got spectacle and atmosphere out the way. What about the characters and the story? Well, the story in this season, there are a few things that didn't work for me, and I might discuss that later, but what I really respect about this season, in terms of like on paper kind of ideas, is that I love how they explore Joanna's past in this season. Throughout the first two, we were very like intrigued about what her past is like. Was she ever an adventurer? Or was she part of someone else's family? Like, what was her family? What were we going to get into? Well, this season, for the most part, explores that very well and really gives us all of the answers that we've been wanting after the first two seasons left out some things that we are to question or we are to find out about Joanna's character. And despite a few problems I do have with Joanna's character in this season, for the most part, I found her intriguement and development in this season to be so inspiring, but also very layered, and we do feel sorry about what she would go through, whether it's the present or the past, and we want to see her find the answers about who exactly she is. And I feel like that the family communication with her and her past family is really developed here, with the character of Aunt Astrid. I freaking adored this character. I felt like that she added a new sense of conflict, but also relationship between Hilda and her family, because she welcomes them into her home with open arms, enjoys introducing them to the culture of the town that she lives in. But at the same time, there's a lot of aura and mystery surrounding her, and you just want to know what makes her character intriguing or tick, and what is she hiding. You might feel a little untrustworthy about her, but you also learn about what she's hiding, and what does she know about what happened in Joanna's past, and maybe that can help Joanna learn more about herself. But at the same time, while Astrid does have those elements, deep down, in front centre, her main priority is the care and support she has for her family. She loves them deep down, cares about them, and wants what's best for them. She kind of reminds me a bit of Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls, where he also has a lot of mystery and questionable decisions and, intrigue about him, but he still has his family to care for. The same thing can be compared to Astrid. Although, I think Astrid has a much more kinder and much more patient personality than Stan. But seriously, she was a great new addition, and the bond between her and Hilda, or the bond between her and Joanna, were very layered and adorable to watch as well. And of course, the girl herself, Hilda, voiced once again by Bella Ramsey, still a fun and awesome lead for the show. She still has her adventurous nature, and you can tell that her adventurousness hasn't really left her since season 2 or the Hilda and the Mountain King movie, because she knows that she's turning into a teenager now. I think she's a teenager in this season, but she still has her adventurous love and passion by her side at all times, no matter whether or not she's growing up. And I think that is a very great thing for people to have, keeping the things that they love while growing up. That's basically what I'm doing. But also, she still has her happy and kind side to her. She still has her energy and confidence, but she also has her understanding and soft spots and weak spots whenever she would end up in peril, because despite being an adventurer, she can get scared and frightened, especially in episode 6. That episode was definitely my favourite episode of the season. It really reminded me so much of the Deer Fox episode from season 2, but a bit more intense. I can see this episode kind of scaring a few kids who end up watching the show, and even adults would be like, man, they really got away with it in this kind of show. But I think that's fantastic. It's thinking outside the box and trusting the audience to really feel the confidence but also weight of what's going on in this episode. As for the supporting characters, they're still as fun as usual. Frida and David are still supportive friends of Hilda, while also being their own characters. They don't do too much in this season, as much as seasons 1 and 2, but they're still great. And I do like that David is progressing and growing up into more of a young lad, but still has that kind of scared, timid nature behind him. It's very interesting to hear a more grown-up voice coming out of his mouth. And Frida is still great. Woodman is still hilariously selfish, but, he's entertaining, so who cares? And Twig is still lovely and adorable as a pet and a companion for Hilda. And without giving too much away, there's a moment with Twig towards the end where Twig, for the win, Twig is life, give him his medal like Chewbacca. And I will say, there's still many moments in this season where I felt the weight of what's going on. It definitely has all the feels for a final season, for the most part. I mean, I'll get to that later, but for the most part, it still has the feels of a final season. And we find out a lot of, reveals and twists and turns that really helps to complete the full picture. And the last 5 minutes, in my opinion, was definitely the ideal ending for Hilda. And I think that the way that the final episode ends, the final episode as a whole is a different story, but the way that it ends, I thought was very satisfying, and in my opinion, a really good way, good, not great, but good way to conclude this young adventurer's story. Now, unfortunately though, I do have problems with this season, and we're going to delve into that now, because again, this is a really good season, but it is my least favourite, and I will discuss them right now. Although, in order to discuss them good, I'll probably have to take a little break, so let's get a new haircut while we're at it. Thank you. In my opinion, a lot of the problems of this season really comes to factor with one major thing that really derails this season from being as good as the first two. And that's probably my biggest problem with this season. This season is too freaking short. I'm just gonna say it, this season was a bit too short, because this is only an 8 episode long final season. Only 8 episodes, whereas the first 2 seasons had 13 episodes. And you could make the argument that the final episode of this season is like really long, but even with that, it still didn't feel like it had enough time this season to really flesh out a lot of things. And I don't know what happened. I really don't know. Well, okay, I think I know what happened. I think the people who were making this final season were actually planning to have the regular 13 episode count, but then I think Netflix kind of like shut them down, saying, oh wait, you're only allowed to do 8 episodes this season. So I guess the showrunner of the Hilda franchise kind of panicked and like, oh right, I need to extend the final episode and stencil these episodes and try to shorten it down to 8 episodes. And while I do appreciate that they were trying to do that, I think Netflix shouldn't have like derailed the episode count, because 8 episodes, in my opinion, wasn't really enough. But it could have been enough if they actually had like most of, if not all, the story have like the biggest purpose and have it like really feed into the conclusion and wrap up of some of these characters. However, this final season also seems to leave out or put in unnecessary factors that really makes me think, really? You're doing that like here? I mean, it could work for like a really good season of Hilda, but it doesn't work for a final season, because there are 2 episodes in this season, episode 4 and most of episode 7, that in my opinion, they felt really like unnecessary. Like, the stories in those episodes literally don't really connect to anything going on with the main story of this final season, and I'm just like, what? Hilda did this? They actually made a filler episode in their final season, which isn't even that long to begin with. You can't do that in your final season. Like, there's not enough time. I mean, if you had 13 episodes, maybe there could have been enough time. But if you're going to include these elements in these episodes, at least have them connect with the main story and have them like show up at the end where it contributes. But the stories in these episodes, they contribute nothing. The 7th episode, which is like the second to last episode, included a storyline that was about like togetherness, never gets resolved, and never is brought up again in the rest of the season in the final episode. So I was like, what was even the point of all of that? Whereas the other story in that episode was the more interesting and actually did have something to contribute to the story. And episode 4, in my opinion, was one of the biggest letdowns, because, don't get me wrong, it was a funny episode, but it wasn't a necessary episode. It really just felt like a complete filler of an episode. And one of the biggest things I was really disappointed about with that episode, as well as the entire season, is that that episode introduces a character named Louise. Louise, I found, was a very fascinating character. She is very shy, but also very interesting and really catches up to what Hilda, Frida and David get up to. And the whole episode was kind of revolving around the fact that this could be a new member of Hilda's team, because it's always been Hilda, David and Frida, but adding a new addition to the team and seeing how they bond on an adventure, that was a really good storyline that they introduced in that episode, and I was very excited to see where that storyline would go. And where does it go with this character? It's just that episode, and then we never see her again. Well, that's so fun. I just think about what they could have done with a 4th member. Seriously, that would have been so much fun in the rest of the season. And also adds like a bit of like new friendship elements to the season to really spice it up. Like, if you're thinking, oh, it's just David, Frida, and Hilda, that's usually been the trio, but let's add another one in just for this episode, at least have it, like, actually contribute into the main story, and, like, have Louise, like, carry on with these characters throughout the rest of the season. But then she just fricks off like any other character. We don't see her again after this episode, we never hear her again, besides maybe a once-in-a-while cameo. I won't give too much away, but... well, that was a bit disappointing. Like, I'm not trying to seem like I know everything, but I think Hilda is much better as a show than that. Much better than having, like, filler episodes and introducing unnecessary storylines that don't go anywhere. Especially for your final season. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things I will say about Season 3. Do I think it's a really good season? Yes, I think it's a really good season, like I said. And I've got more problems to say, but I'll just say what I'm about to say just right now. I do think it's a really good season, but do I think that everything feels like a final season? Well, for the most part, I'm gonna say it. I don't think that this felt like a final season of Hilda. It's just like the final season of Walking Dead. It felt like a really good season, but for the most part, it doesn't feel like a final season, besides a few moments in the last episode. Maybe there was just a problem that they had in production, maybe they were derailed by a few episodes and they had to like try to figure it out. But if you had only 8 episodes to do, at least write 2 of the episodes in your 8 episode season much better and have it contribute something to the story. And speaking of things that do not contribute to the story, one of the biggest things that really breaks my heart about this season is that a lot of the supporting characters from the first 2 seasons and the Mountain King movie that we actually grew to develop in those first few moments of the show and really grew to love were completely left out of Season 3. What the hell? Like, some of these characters didn't get a proper conclusion when we last saw him, or a wave goodbye or anything. For the most part this season, they just don't show up. Some of these characters really added like some spice and connection to Hilda's coming of age arc, and even had something to include in the Hilda Mountain King movie. And some of these characters don't even get a proper wave goodbye? What a rip-off! Now, you could make the argument that they do actually show up in the season, but it's only for a once-in-a-while cameo. And I won't give away who these characters are that I'm listing, but watch this season and you'll know, and you will be very, very disappointed that they don't contribute much to the main story, besides a once-in-a-while cameo, which, it was good, but that really broke my heart, because don't sideline them. They're great characters, and if you're having your final season, give them some resolution. That's what I loved about the first 2 seasons. I love every single character, including the ones that we met along the way, and unfortunately they didn't get a proper, like, goodbye or anything. Like, oh, I'll miss you, but I wish I could have said a real goodbye to you. And the last problem I have with this season is that I felt like some of the characters in this season were acting a bit out of character, or there were some decisions I felt like that I did disagree with and didn't make too much sense. I did find a lot of Joanna's decisions to be a bit questionable, and like, okay, I felt like that wasn't the best thing to decide on. And I also feel like that she didn't really like fully learn how to not be such like an overprotective parent. She can be protective, but not overprotective. But the season made it clear that she's still being a bit overprotective, even though the past few seasons, and I think the ending of the Hilda Mountain King movie, helped her to learn not to be overprotective and feel confident in the bravery that her daughter has. But it felt like in some cases that lesson has been forgotten. But there is a reason why, without spoiling anything, but it felt like that lesson has been forgotten just so it can go back to the status quo. Also, and this is just something I noticed, and it wasn't happening all the time, it only happened like a few many moments, like I think about 40% of the time, but the actress for Joanna, Daisy Haggard, I believe her name is, I think a good chunk of her line delivery was good, but there are a few moments where I felt like her voice sounded a bit phoned in. Whenever she sometimes has to express some emotion of shock, she sounded a bit too underplayed and a little underact in a few of those moments. Now, I mean, in voice acting it's hard to say now and again because you can either overplay it or underplay it, but maybe I think she just needed like another 3 takes. But again, this is only like about a good chunk of the season. Most of the season I think she did a fantastic job, so I don't think it was awful, but her voice acting as Joanna wasn't as good as she was like in the first 2 seasons and the movie. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this season. This was definitely the most difficult season to watch. Not because like, oh, I didn't like her or anything. No, it was great. It was very emotional, it was heavy, it was hilarious, it was dark. Like, some of the imagery and scenes are so scary and can really shock people and give them a little bit of a fright. The characters are still likeable, the animation is still beautiful and stunning, and I will say it was a pretty good way to end the franchise in like the final episode, like in a few moments. But for the most part, I was always wondering, like, why are we speeding through this season? It felt really quick. Like, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that causes a lot of the problems I have with this season. It was rushed. This season, this final season, this is one thing I really don't like about final installments in like movies or TV shows. I don't like when their final installment is rushed because it was just a quick little, oh, bye-bye, Ben. I was like, come on, give us like a bye-bye, I'll always be a part of your life. Like, something like Lord of the Rings or, like, well, not, okay, obviously not that long, but something like, kind of like the same level as Lord of the Rings or Endgame or a lot of other good, like, fleshed out conclusions to a franchise. I don't like it whenever they're rushed, and this season did feel a bit rushed, and because of this, a lot of the writing this season was not as spectacular as the first 2, because they either include unnecessary filler, wasted potential of characters and story, and a few actions that I felt like they shouldn't have put into the season. I mean, again, this doesn't make the season bad. I still think it's a really good season. I really liked how it ended. A lot of the things that we wanted concluded in the final few moments of the season. It was beautiful. And honestly, I think that's one of the big reasons I felt like that I would have wanted more from this season and would have wanted it to be a better season, because this is our final goodbye to, in my opinion, one of my favourite animated shows and one of the best Netflix original series I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Hilda and Twig as characters, as well as the other characters that we've met, really like come off as so captivating and so well written and adorable, and a lot of the emotions that go on through these characters are so strong that you don't want it to end. So I still felt really sad knowing that this was our final season and this was our final goodbye. Yeah, it was very sad to see them go, and it was a great like goodbye to see them. But again, I think it's a good season. Not a great season, but a good season. So I'll give this season a 4.25 star out of 5. And the only reason why I'm giving it like a little quarter of a star, 4 and a little quarter of a star out of 5, is because there still were some amazing moments, still great episodes, still great character moments and emotional moments, and still had a really strong resoluted conclusion. I felt like a lot of things were kind of ended and concluded in the film Hilda and the Mountain King, so this season kind of felt more like an epilogue rather than a final season. But again, still a great season. Honestly, I have a lot of thanks for the creator of Hilda for introducing me to this show, because it's so good. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Hilda, for being a part of my life. And I will say, after seeing the final season, it makes me want to go back and rewatch the show again. I actually rewatched the whole show again in preparation for this video so I can review the season, and it's just as good as I remember it, so thank you, Hilda. You are a true adventurer. But anyway, guys, what do you think of this final season of Hilda? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what is the best or worst final season of a TV show you've ever seen? Let me know in the comment section below. More videos to come, and I'm Daniel reviewing movies, TV shows, and doing videos. Till then, peace out, man. Well, I just realised, unfortunately, I am moving out of this house. Me and my family, we're moving out. I made a update video a month and a half ago and back in February that will fully explain that, but for now, I mean, granted, I'll still get to go to this house at weekends, but I think the future videos will be filmed in a new bedroom. I know, sad. So, I will definitely have something filmed in this bedroom ready for the 7th anniversary, as well as a little way to send off the good years I spent in this bedroom. But we're not at that point yet. We're going to be getting that at some point, don't you worry. But anyway, I'm done reviewing movies, series, and doing videos. Let's see how the next few months go. Till then, peace out, man.